We're gonna buy this beer and get drunk.
Let me have one of those porno magazines. Large box of condoms, a bottle of Old Harper.
Give me like 6 of these beef jerkies. Hungry enough to chew the crotch out of a rag doll.
Strange things are afoot at the Circle K.
This thing rules. The thing rules.
Oh, hey, what's up? I'm Brian Altano.
And I'm Max Scoville.
This is a show where we discuss something we love,
Unpack why we love it,
explain where it came from,
try to remember our first impressions of it,
share our weird stories about it.
maybe learn something new about it along the way.
But first and foremost, we're here to celebrate the fact that this thing rules.
Hey, so let's talk about convenience stores.
Sure, I could hear the bell of two people walking in,
Ding.
repeating ding, which is what happens when you walk in. That's how you define a convenience store, right?
Is that it?
It makes a sound when you walk in? No.
Yeah, I was going to say, because there's like camera repair stores that do that. The Home Depot like tool rental has that, and if you stand too far back, it just keeps going repeatedly.
Okay.
But a convenience store for the
Yes.
for the sake of convenience, I guess we should probably break down what exactly a convenience store is. It has an amazing just rainbow of different terms depending on what part of the world you're in, and it's also sort of I think over a certain square footage, it just becomes a grocery store or a market. But
I was going to ask you about that because I figured it's based almost entirely on size, right?
Yeah, I guess so. No, I think it's hours and size.
Hours and size.
Hours is the big one. So we can get into this in a second, but for the sake of convenient conversation, a convenience store is also known as a liquor store, a corner store, a mini mart, a mini market, a bodega, a convenience shop, a corner shop, a carryout, a mini mart. And in other parts of the world, they have all sorts of wacky names. Apparently, a milk bar is something in Australia. A cold store in Michigan, they call it a party store.
Cold store?
No, cold store, not a cold sore. I'm sure there's some overlap there. But
What about party stores? Like when you
party stores,
When you fall
not
down.
to be confused with a partysaurus, which is a cool dinosaur wearing a backwards hat.
that's a dinosaur with a backwards hat, yeah, or a party hat.
Kookaburra. Anyway, bodega in New York City, that's probably I feel like your go-to. Also a deli. Apparently in New Zealand they call it a dairy. And then there's the superette, which I've heard in California, but also apparently that's a New England thing, but then also in New Zealand. And then in Germany, they call it a kiosk. We're very familiar with those from our adventures. There's also a spati or a spatkopf, which is like a bilate. In Japan, it's a konbini, which is like the Hepburn romanization of convenience. And then in Canada, I guess primarily in Quebec, it's a dépanneur or a dep, which is the French for troubleshooter. And in the UK, it's an off license, or an offie, which is a business that has a license to sell alcohol, but not for consumption on the premises. You have to consume it off the premises, so it's an off license.
So not a bar.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which
Which they had to define because people were getting drunk inside the 7-Eleven.
I don't know. It's weird paperwork that probably has to circumnavigate some kind of
it seems like
puritanical blue laws.
Seems like a term that came from some bad dudes
Probably.
doing ruffian stuff.
But yeah, so like it's a ubiquitous thing. Like convenience stores, no matter what part of the world you're in, they exist. They are a thing. They're something,
Yes.
and there's something special about them. There's something just they can be a necessity, but they can also be a treat. You know, they can be a genuine thing that you need if you have to go get eggs or milk or whatever. They can be a thing that's right there when you need it. Or if you're a bad person who's up to no good, you can go there to get tall boys and cigarettes. Or if you're a little kid, you can go there to get, a strawberry shortcake good humor bar and a bag of gummy worms. Like there's sort of an appeal. There's a universal appeal to a convenience store, and that's what's so convenient about them.
When we were talking about doing this episode, the first thing I thought to myself was like, I've been going to these things my entire life, but for different reasons, and none of them were particularly healthy, right? Like, I mean, maybe you could go in there and get milk and eggs. That's such a rarity for me. I feel like to get to a 7-Eleven or like we used to call them like or there was a one chain called Tiger Mart, which was like a lot of these are connected to gas stations.
Tiger Mart's
right?
Is that an Exxon one?
I think so. I think it's Exxon. And you would go in there and like those specifically didn't have alcohol. But you could get like cigarettes or blunt wraps and then candy and, mixers and stuff for your alcohol. But there's also like, there's a weird breakdown where like some 7-Elevens will have beer, even in California, right?
There's so I worked at a I worked at a Chevron. What do they call it? I don't even know what they call it.
little
I worked
Chevy.
there. A little Chevy.
Yeah.
A Chevy Chase, they call it. No, we didn't sell any hard stuff. We only sold Chevy Chasers. No, so I worked at one that was like a 24-hour, mini mart. For the life of me, I can't. I think it was just like just a mart. I don't know. It's not an AM PM. It's whatever the Chevron adjacent thing is.
Was it ever closed?
I had to close it at like 3:00 in the morning to mop. And occasionally weirdos would show up and they'd be like, "Hey, I want to come in there and buy cigarettes." And I'm like, "No,
24/7."
They'd honestly do the thing where they're like, "You gotta just close," and like you could just turn all the lights off, and it felt like hiding from a dinosaur or something. Or you're like, just hold perfectly still, like just pretend you're not there, like play dead,
So
like hide.
you would turn off the lights and then mop, and then during that time, people would show up
Once
being
in a
like,
while.
I need an egg sandwich or whatever.
Yeah, and it was
Jimmy Dean time.
one of the coolest worst jobs ever. Like it was such a weird time. We did not sell alcohol, but I had to go through the whole like how to sell alcohol training, which is honestly the most like idiotic. The fact that I had to do it in the first place when I was like, I'm working at this one location that does not sell alcohol of any kind. Do I have to do this? They're like, yes. And the whole thing is when you get carded, you have to card somebody. If they look under 30, you need to card them. But there's a thing where you also, I forget, and I'm not a lawyer. This was a job I worked 20 years ago. Probably don't quote me on this, but there was a thing where it feels like the whole the Pulp Fiction conversation about the legality of carrying drugs, where it's like it's illegal to legal to hold it, legal to something. It's illegal for them to search you. There's some shit where if you ask somebody if they have ID, or if you ask them if they're over 21, that's enough. And they're supposed to card you if you look under 30. If they are an undercover cop, they are not allowed to lie to you. So if you say, "Are you over 21?" they can't do what a person who's using a fake ID or who's trying to buy alcohol legally can do. It's a weird loophole thing.
Okay.
That it could also be just like Chevron policy, not actual legality. I have no idea. Anyway,
what they trained you in this even though you weren't doing it there?
Exactly. Yeah, they would just.
Is that in case you got caught doing a crime there and they would have to move you to like a different one?
They were just, it was just like ass covering. I think it was if I transferred or something, if I worked another shift. But yeah, so the thing is I worked, what hours? I worked like 10 to 7, I think.
You worked graveyard shift.
Yeah, I worked graveyard, which was bizarre. And I worked there on the weekend, so I'd always get like, fun people. But if we sold beer, it would have been way more fun, but we didn't. So it was mostly people going in to get like old women buying cigarettes at 3 a.m, or like dude came in and bought, he was wearing latex gloves, and he came in and he's like, "You guys got any rope?" And I was like, "What are you fucking doing?"
No.
And he was like, "Oh, no, I'm not a murderer, I swear." He didn't say that, but he was like, basically, he's like, I deliver the newspapers. Like I take the big stacks of newspapers. I'm not a paper boy. I bring the newspapers places, but I'm allergic to the ink on the newsprint. So I wear these gloves. And I was like, it seems like he should just not do that job. Do a different job, maybe. I don't know.
Right. Yeah, I feel like if you run out of cigarettes at 3:00 in the morning, you're having a night.
Yeah.
You're in it.
Yeah.
If you're like, I can't go to bed until. Although I don't judge people that people work weird fucking hours. They sleep weird hours. They live weird hours. That's why convenience stores exist, right? I mean that, and like teenagers need a place to hang out. Where cops can bother them.
There's a pop cultural significance of convenience stores as a place for loitering, despite the fact that they say no loitering. Like,
yeah, they made a whole movie about it.
They made multiple movies. I mean, okay, so it's weird because it's always duos. It's always two dumb dudes. So it's a fitting that we would talk about this. But like, big one, Jay and Silent Bob, obviously.
Yeah,
big, huge.
And Clerks.
Yeah, they are. They're the heroes of that movie. They start off as kind of side characters, but they're the through line of just dudes who loiter in front of a thing.
And they're sort of a nuisance. Like they're occasionally helpful. If you look at someone like a duo like Beavis and Butt-Head,
right,
who are constantly at the the super or the convenience store, Quickie Mart, whatever they call it in Beavis and Butt-Head, they're a nuisance constantly. Like the guy that works there is just constantly like they're trying to buy nachos with paper coins and like,
pretend they buy beer with like hair they glued on their face so they look like they have beards or whatever.
They're terrible.
They're funny because they wind up loitering in different places. Like sometimes they're at the Whataburger or whatever, like
or just a man's backyard.
They're a nuisance no matter where. But sometimes they go to their version is the Maxi Mart specifically. I did a bunch of digging into this, whether these are actual places or not. There's of course the Circle K of San Dimas, California, which is where strange things are afoot in Bill and Ted.
Yeah. Yeah.
But again, you have those two doofuses. It's funny because is there a Wayne's World bit where they go to a convenience store? I can't recall.
I feel like there might be. It's been a minute since I've seen those movies. I mean, obviously the big one is The Simpsons, right? That
The
was
Quickie
like,
Mart. Yeah.
Yeah, the Quickie Mart. Like that's like they made play sets out of that, and
Yeah.
action figures and all this stuff. And that was the other thing too. Like for a very long time, I think because of that show, people associated 7-Elevens and Quickie Marts with immigrants from India who came to America. And it was weird for me because growing up in New Jersey, when Kevin Smith made Clerks, I was like, oh, we have some of these around us, but we mostly just went to 7-Elevens and Tiger Marts and stuff like that. Those were like 7-Elevens were like in the middle of a town somewhere, or usually kind of slightly off the beaten path, and then all the Tiger Marts and mini marts, all those were on the highway, and you would pop out while getting gas. Because the thing is, in New Jersey, they would pump your gas for you.
Oh yeah.
So that was so you didn't really need to like hang by your car because like a guy was being paid to watch it for you. Basically, right? Like he would just be standing there in front of your car, and you'd be like, "Oh, I have like 2 minutes to run in the store and get a hot dog or like a off-brand slushy or whatever."
Slush puppy.
Slush puppy, yeah. Slush Daddy.
Slurpee is the 7-Eleven one, and then Slush Puppy
Yeah.
is that weird dog who's like, I feel like the dog is just overdressed for.
The dog is overdressed because he's usually out there in the middle of the summertime, and I think
I don't like.
to
It
be
doesn't make any sense. He's cool because he's the dog made of ice. You know, he's got the little hat on, and
he needs the clothes because he's on top of the ice machine.
There's a sensory kind of confusion there because if you're gonna have a slush puppy, you're probably pretty hot because it's summertime. You want a cool drink, and you look at this, and there's like a discomfort that comes from looking at that dog. That dog, if you did that to a real dog in like slush puppy weather, the dog would die.
What should the slush puppy mascot be then? Like a nude iguana with muscles? It's just like,
well,
it's fucking hot as hell in here.
Yes, it should. It should be a nude iguana with muscles. It's wearing some jorts. Like I don't know.
And everyone's like, do they call those things puppies somewhere? Like maybe,
no,
maybe New
like
Zealand.
They should do like a photorealistic slush puppy, but instead of him wearing clothes, he's just locked in a hot car. He's just like barking, like, "Get me a cold blue raspberries ice drink. I need it. I'm hot."
That's when I'm like down the shore and it's hot in the summer. That's the first thing I want to see a photograph of a dog trapped in a car about to die, and he's just salivating at something just beyond the window that's not even cracked ajar. He's just like fogging it up.
Yeah.
And then on the other side, there's like a floating, disembodied blue ice.
Okay, so yeah, slush puppies again. That feels sort of that's its own. Like that doesn't have an associated establishment as far as I know. The last slush puppy I had was at one of those like family golf like fun center places.
Yeah, they show up everywhere.
Yeah,
like they're not really.
We could. Yeah, this is we got to do a whole.
Slurpees are like exclusive to 7-Eleven, and then like slushy machines and slush puppies go everywhere, and then hush puppies are like
that's either a shoe or a fried thing.
Yeah, it's like a fried ball.
So let's talk about the convenience store, the
Sure.
24-hour mini market convenience store. I've always
which
been
apparently shuts down at 3:00 in the morning.
Sometimes some of them stay open. I think that was only because I was the only dude working there. You know, like I was
when
just
I
by
meant
myself.
did you guys ever close? I meant like holidays and stuff like that. Because I remember
think so.
going like Christmas Eve, you could go to like a Tiger Mart in New Jersey, and there would be a guy. If you like, you talking about slush puppy, like a dude wearing like 3 Carhartt jackets. Because he had to stand outside and pump gas, and then also run inside because there would just be one guy working that night.
Right.
So he'd be pumping gas, and then he would run in to sell people cigarettes and hot dogs and stuff like that. So yeah, but those were open. Those never closed.
Yeah, no, I don't think we ever closed for holidays or anything. I think it was just I feel like I got paid double or something or triple if I worked a holiday, but I don't think I worked there long enough to work any holidays.
7-Eleven's name comes from the hours they were originally open,
Yes,
right?
let's get into that. This is fascinating to me. So the 7-Eleven, the American convenience store, arguably the first one was in 1927, which was started out as the Southland Ice Dock of Oak Cliff, Dallas, Texas, which basically they sold blocks of ice because back then an ice box was a literal box that you put ice into and it kept your shit cold. And they kept long hours because, you know, if people I guess they wouldn't want to go get ice at weird hours, you know, but long hours at that point in the olden days was like 16 hours a day.
Right.
And they were open every day of the week, and they probably closed on holidays. But the idea was basically they are keeping these long hours, and if they've got all this ice anyway, why not sell some essential shit like eggs and milk and all that?
My wife is from southern New Jersey, and we met in California. And southern New Jersey to me is basically like a different planet or a different country than northern New Jersey.
Should you go to Wawa's?
Yeah, so they had Wawas, and the last time I was in a Wawa with her, we didn't really have them in northern New Jersey when I was growing up. And I went in there with her, and they had in front of the freezer with all the bags of ice. You can only do this in fucking New Jersey. They had to put up signs everywhere that said, please don't smash the ice bags on the ground in the store. So the second I thought about 7-Eleven being like, all right, with this, we have to do a big ice thing. People were coming in with ice blocks. I thought about how in New Jersey, in Wawa's, they had to be like, you fucking idiots, please stop coming in here, taking the huge bags and banging them on the ground to go out.
I've never been to a Wawa. I really want to go to a Wawa.
I would say that like after you've been to a 7-Eleven, they're pretty impressive because they do a lot of they have a deli counter and stuff like that. Like
Yeah,
you can get legit like I think you can get like a cheesesteak there. Like they'll make like a hot sandwich, not just like some cold bullshit.
Yeah, for sure. No,
yeah,
I
they
want
do a
to.
lot
So
more.
I've wanted to go to one. There's a Bloodhound Gang song. They tried to get a petition to make it the state anthem of Pennsylvania. The chorus is just, "Do you even know what a Wawa is?" And at the time I did not know what a Wawa was, so I had to look it up. And it's apparently from the Native American word for Canadian goose, which is like a funny thing for an American chain to have. But hey, the state bird of Utah is the California seagull, and that's a landlocked. Go figure.
And slush puppy is a nude iguana. So.
Exactly, yeah. So the 7-Eleven began from this chain. Basically, the company. This idea was came from a dude named Uncle Johnny Jefferson Green.
Okay,
Yeah,
come on.
that's what his name is. What part
No,
of
it's not.
Part of that's in quotes, but you got to guess which part. You don't have to do it here. You can write in your answers later. But yeah, basically, he had the idea of keeping these long hours because they had perishables anyway. People latched onto this idea, and it became sort of a more widespread hit. And by 1946, the Southland Ice Company had scooped up a bunch of other businesses and markets and ice docks or whatever they call them. And they'd spread out these hours kind of uniformly, and the hours they kept were 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. Therefore, it became 7-Eleven.
Right.
And the 7-Eleven 24-hour model, as lore has it, as legend has it, began as an accident. The company had been toying around with having basically a 24-hour Las Vegas location, which checks out because it's Vegas. That makes perfect sense. But as far as having that happen outside of that started apparently in Austin because there was a 7-Eleven near where a Longhorns game was happening, and business didn't slow down long enough for them to close. Like the game got out, and all these college kids came in to buy beers and were probably shotgunning in the park, and it was just people in and out the door the entire night, so they couldn't stop, and they just kept going all night long. And they were like, well, business was really good. I guess we should do that more. And I guess it became sort of almost like an event thing where the next time they had a football game, they tried it out again, and it took off, and it worked. And that gradually spread out all over the place and became a common thing. The funny thing, though, is that there were 24-hour stores before that. Like, that wasn't a revolutionary concept. But it was definitely, I feel like they normalized it. It became less of a, obviously that was for college kids who wanted to probably buy, what's that Texas beer? What's the one? It's the one that Matthew McConaughey's Lone Star. Is that it?
Big Texie.
Big Texie. They get go in there to get the Big Texas cinnamon buns and get the Lone Star beer, and the time is a flat circles. But no, there were like 24-hour stores for ages because it's it's a people stay up late. That's a thing. There are. Is
this like where there was Hydrox before Oreos, but then Oreos
it's something
came
like
out
that.
and
None of these
we're
were chains though. But it's funny because that's not a thing that people keep track of. Like if a place stays open late, it's probably for sordid reasons. There is a record in 1937. There was a candy store on the corner of Livonia and Saratoga Avenues in Brooklyn. It stayed open all night long. And
that's insane.
Right. And it was a candy shop. It was just on the corner. It was just right there. It was great. And the reason that this is even recorded is because its 67-year-old owner, Rose Gold, was arrested and charged with racketeering and perjury. So I feel like maybe a little more to it than a candy store. But still, the neighbors were like, yeah, they stay open all night. It's a candy shop. It's pretty cool.
By Mario Kart logic, Rose Gold was unlocked after the regular Princess Peach was working the store long enough. Then you unlock the variant.
Exactly,
also, I think if you have a 24-hour candy store, there's a problem somewhere. There's a problem in the community. So start there. There's a problem inside the building.
Well,
I
see, the
would
thing
say.
is, taffy had just been invented, and people couldn't get enough of it.
Was it that they started eating it in the store and it took so long to chew that they're like, I'm sorry, these people are physically stuck inside.
No,
of
it was the
building.
opposite of an off license. They had to eat the taffy in the store. They had a big
Okay.
spool of it. They would have it hanging from hooks, and people would have to chew it off the hooks to get it down. And it
Yeah,
was
like
in the
like
wintertime,
sloths.
you'd have to chew it so much. It was too taff. The tough was too taffy.
That was before the taffy became laffy, right? And then people were having
This was
a good time with
serious.
it.
This was no laughing
This
taffy.
was serious, painful taffy. no laffy taffy.
What I love is I looked this up. I looked up this intersection on Google Maps, and on that corner, 3 of the 4 corners,
Is an ancient Indian burial ground.
ancient Indian taffy making factories. No, on that site there are 3 bodegas or markets
Okay.
of some shape or form. I think one's a deli, one's a regular grocery store, one is a market. They're all on that site, which goes to show that the idea of a late night market is. I mean, you had general stores before this, but those probably kept pretty old fashioned hours, and this was a place that was like, we're going to stay open all night.
I was reading about this, and apparently, if you eat at all 3, you unlock a battle with the ancient wizard Aghanim.
The ghost of rose gold emerges, whips you with taffy ropes. But yeah, none of them are open 24 hours. One of them's open till 1 a.m. and then I think one of them closes at 8:30 like a coward.
That's
But
just embarrassing, by the way.
then there's the Hollywood Ranch Market. This is like a mecca of 24-hour spots. And this was this goofy ass place in Hollywood, as the name would suggest, more of a regular grocery store, but they became kind of a weird spot because they had a sign out front in giant letters that just said, "We never close." And this was in like,
Sounds like a challenge,
Right?
A challenge accepted.
well, it was a
I'll
challenge
get
that
store
was
to close.
accepted by all sorts of popular degenerates like Marlon Brando and James Dean and Orson Welles.
Like, what if 6 Great Danes walked in at the same time and all took shits? They would close that store. Like, I'll get that store to close.
Maybe that happened. This was like a destination. This was a spot like celebrities would take their wives there to go shopping at like 4 a.m. because I think that was just a crazy kooky, idea at the time.
Easily the worst part about being a celebrity, by the way, is like they wake you up at 4 a.m. They're like, "Come on, get in the limo. We're gonna go shopping."
Well, they had a studio across the street where I think Steve Allen did a talk show for a while, and in the 70s he
Okay.
would go there and do man on the street shit and like do early kind of proto candid camera type stuff where he would fuck with people in the vegetable section. And so there's all this footage of this market, but it burned down in the 80s, so it doesn't exist anymore. And now it is a Pollo Loco, which is fucking so chicken it doesn't even stay open past 9:30.
That's
but like
lame.
the 24-hour market, that legacy lives on. Like that's everywhere. There's plenty of places you can go to that are open 24 hours. It's not a thing for celebrities, but I like the idea that they sort of pioneered that. In the 50s it's for movie stars, and in the the 70s it's for college kids, and then after that it's just everybody. If you want to go to a 24-hour thing, that's on you. You fuck up your own circadian rhythms and get weird urges at late at night. There's probably some place that's open.
Yeah, there's something that will cater to you, like a candy shop in Brooklyn.
24-hour candy. Got to get candy. Got to have that candy. I fell down this wonderful rabbit hole about this, and I just love learning this kind of history. I dug up all of sort of the iconic convenience stores. I wanted to see which of them are real, which of them are still open, what's the story there. Have you ever been to the Quick Stop from Clerks? Have you been there?
No, I haven't.
It is in Leonardo, New Jersey. It is still open. It's a tourist destination. It's an iconic.
Oh,
filming
interesting. So
locale.
it's an actual functional store.
It is an
that's still
actual
open.
functional store. It's still there. I want to go there. Do you know where Leonardo is? Is that like, I don't know what.
No. That's like, I think that's closer. Like that's more southern New Jersey. I think. Like I didn't make it down there often. I did go to the mall from not the mall from Mallrats, but the
flea market one?
Flea market
With
where
the
woman has
the boob?
the edible third.
yeah.
She eats her third nipple or
That's
whatever.
definitely like a top 3 third nipple scene in movies. It's up there with Total Recall.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
Yeah, I think there shouldn't be more than 3 of those just to keep that list perfect. No, I did go there and I bought a Game Boy game, and I think like I used G.I. Joe. I think it was called The Getaway. It was based on a Bally pinball game, and it's about like a criminal trying to get away from cops.
I wouldn't
And,
have
like,
pieced that together.
Yeah, that's what he's trying to do. It's not about like a weekend
Okay,
getaway.
fair enough.
It's about a couple that they're having marriage problems.
Short for
and
get away
they
from
wanna-
it, yeah. No.
Yeah, they want to go to Shawnee, Pennsylvania for 2 or 3 nights. And
Yeah, it's based on
do some toboggan
Ben
stuff.
Kingsley and Famke Janssen trying to save their marriage in the whackness. It's a kind of an
Yeah.
odd Game Boy game choice, but hey, X
or
versus Sever, Stranger
Willem
Things
Dafoe's
have been made.
Antichrist.
There we go.
That too.
I want to watch. I keep meaning to watch that, but then I also know that it just opens with his penis. Like you just this first thing is just him.
It's a specific shot of it's from the side too.
That dude's
Like,
always that dude's always doing wiener stuff in his movies. You know.
It looks like if you were watching like two guys try to use a battering ram on the side of a dollhouse. Like that's what it looks like. It's like that's a weird angle. Okay,
I don't want to talk about that anymore.
You don't have to. Okay. I don't know why we got there.
Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. Obviously, San Dimas, California, not a real place. Heavily inspired by spots in the valley, I'm guessing. The Circle K of San Dimas, California. The actual filming location was in Tempe, Arizona. Mm-hmm. This blows my mind. That place shut down, or it's stopping. It's stopping a Circle K. The Circle K Corporation. They put out like a press release, I think, basically being like, "Yes, we had an excellent history," and so blah blah blah. Just like it was one of those like clearly they went on, IMDb and looked up quotes from the movie and then put that in the speech. And you just imagine some dude in a suit being like, "It was a most excellent, not bogus business adventure," but. It is now...
but now, bummer, dude, we have filed for Chapter 11.
Yeah, pretty much. Circle K was always sort of elusive. I get the feeling that was... I think in some parts of the country it's still as common as 7-Eleven, but you don't see them as much in California, or at least not in the parts that I frequent.
I don't know if I've been in one in a long time, if ever, but I'm fully aware of them. Like I think I've driven by them before, and I've definitely seen them in person.
I think I've been to more in Japan than I have in the States, which is a weird quandary.
That checks out. I might have gone to one in Japan.
That spot is that location is now a corner market with a K, and I think legally they couldn't put a circle around the K, but they really emphasized the K in the sign, and it's cool because it's an independent spot. I don't know if I was running that spot, I would be like Bill and Ted's Excellent Market. Like I would. You can't. Can you? How much of the Bill and Ted naming convention is copyrighted?
I don't know. I mean, I guess you have to look at the value proposition of how much would that be worth rather than just saying.
Do you have to hire a dude named Bill and Ted and then make them partners in the business? Do they have to be on the LLC to legally say this is Bill and Ted's? And then
you would have to hire several generations of people who know what those movies are too.
Fair enough. The weird thing though is it closed recently.
Didn't they put out a Bill and Ted movie like right around then? Because I interviewed Bill and Ted on Zoom during the pandemic. That's one of those things that like doesn't feel real to me, where I woke up in my in my bed and then walked into my living room and turned on my camera and was just like, "Hey, it's Alex Winter and Keanu Reeves. How's your movie?" And then I think I watched like a VLC file that they sent me because like they didn't have theaters that week, and I was like, I didn't really like that. So then that IP just kind of went away. Yeah, bogus.
Odd.
Actually, I can tell you how unvaluable that IP is. Limited Run Games put out a collection of Bill and Ted games that are all bad, and they discontinued it because the sales weren't worth.
No shit.
This all happened within the span of like a year or so.
Okay, so this one fucking fascinating. Highland, Texas, not a real place. The setting of Beavis and Butt-Head. Highland, Texas.
Birth of the Highlander. That's where he was born.
Shut up. Highland, Texas, not a real place in Texas. Highland, Albuquerque is a real place. That is where Mike Judge went to high school. He went to Highland High, which is a real high school, but it's in Albuquerque. Unlike, it's not.
What about Highland, Arizona?
Shut up. Fuck off. So he went there. He said
Highland
it. He's shut the fuck up. He said in interviews that Beavis and Butthead are based on high schoolers who would have gone to this high school.
That checks out.
And so I'm like, okay, is there a specific Maxi Mart? And if you pull up images of like the Beavis and Butthead High School and the actual Highland High School, they look similar in the same way that sitcom high school looks like every high school, kind of.
Yeah.
It's pretty close though. There's a Circle K and a 7-Eleven like basically equidistant in two directions from this high school, which I thought was funny. I was just poking around on Google Maps looking at this.
Oh, that's awesome.
Because if there was just an actual Maxi Mart across the street, and maybe there was at some point, that would have fascinated me because I'm obsessed with this kind of weird intersection of convenience stores and pop culture. That would have been awfully convenient. What's your favorite convenience store? Do you have a specific favorite, like bodega, convenience store, spot, whatever? Like
I don't have a favorite one. I have like a whole swarm of like really wonderful, funny, silly, stupid memories that have happened around them or in them. A bunch have been with you.
It's not a place where intelligent things happen. It's a
no, not at all. One of my favorite, I guess like post high school convenience store stories was you, me, and Scott Bromley, formerly of the Comedy Button, went into a convenience store. I think it was just the three of us. We went to this bar called Would You Believe Cocktails, which is one of my favorite names for a bar.
Would you believe that business is still open?
So anyway, we went to the 7-Eleven, and I remember specifically Scott Bromley making sort of like what they call like a walking Fritos pie.
I pride myself in being like knowing my way around a 7-Eleven. He basically figured out that there's like a secret menu. There's like the secret In-N-Out menu, but it's more or less things that they legally can't stop you from doing. And his logic is that anything you buy in 7-Eleven can have chili and cheese poured on it. And then when you
be true.
I think there might be some like validity to it, because his logic is that when you get nachos there, or when you get a hot dog there, or a chili dog or whatever, they ring you up for that item. When you buy nachos, they ring you up for a bag of chips and a little box. They don't give a fuck about what you do with the chili and the cheese. So his logic is, yeah, you could buy Gatorade and fill it with chili.
Yeah, one of the other big differences between like a 7-Eleven or a convenience store and a grocery store is that grocery stores don't have a fucking chili gun. Like there's these things in the back of 7-Eleven, and one of them just pumps out hot liquid cheese, and it's boiling hot. Like you could bring somebody in there and get information out of them.
You ever seen the inside of that machine?
No.
You know what it looks like?
Orange?
It looks just like catheter bags.
Oh.
The cheese and the chili comes in bags, and they've got these big silicone nipples that you got to shove through the machine. And there's basically what's in there is a little heater, and then a thing that just like hugs the bag to squeeze the shit out of it. I don't mean to ruin 7-Eleven, chili and cheese, but if it hasn't been ruined for you by now, I don't know what's going to... I still eat this garbage. It reminds me of the part in Fight Club where they steal the bags of fat, because that's basically what it is. It's a bag,
so
and
gross.
they rip it on the barbed wire fence. So enjoy your next...
Little heaters is what you're doing after you eat that. But yeah, there's a button you can push in the back of 7-Eleven.
And it goes...
It's not just and then this brown tube starts shooting chili out. And it's like, is it meat chili?
Yeah.
I actually don't know.
Citation needed.
I don't know if it's like vegetarian or not, because it's like
I don't think they call it meat, but they also don't put like it's a vegan. Like they don't.
Right. So anyway, Scott went in there. We got a bag of Fritos. He opened it up and he just filled it like imagine if you filmed the video of a guy emptying the heaviest diaper you ever saw, and then you reverse the video. That's what it looked like. He just had this bag that just filled up with cheese. It must have been like 3 pounds worth of shit. And I think he got a fork, right? Or a spoon.
Yeah.
And just walked out and just started shoveling the food into his mouth. We went to a 7-Eleven on his wedding day in our tuxedos.
Where are those photos?
I have a pic. Yeah, I have pictures of that.
I need those photos. I want them.
Oh, I'll send them to you.
I want them for my LinkedIn.
Sure. Yeah. And one of them, I guess they were selling Hulk hands at the time, because this must have been like in the middle of the war,
the Avengers pandemic,
the Infinity War.
I remember those. They weren't full Hulk hands, but they were Slurpee koozies,
little heaters. Yeah, I think they were. Okay, you could put a Slurpee in the fist, right?
Don't ever say that series of words to me again.
To be honest with you, like when you held them up, it looked like you're like, well, these are fucking
they were too small.
Big dick they were too small for what?
They were too small for Hulk hands. They were just slightly larger than regular hands. So you just put it just looked like a big glove. There wasn't.
Your Hulk hands are too small to jerk off with. It was. Yeah, so I mean, theoretically, you could go into 7-Eleven, put a Slurpee cup in the Hulk hand, and then fill it with chili cheese.
You could, yeah. It's the same logic as, I guess, fountain drinks, where they're not measuring the shit that's in there. It's so cheap that it's not itemized. Like if you want, I went to 7-Eleven the other day, fairly recently, and I think I was with my kid, and I wanted to give her milk, and I didn't have a milk bottle, or it was one of those things where I'm like, can I get a cup with a straw? And they were like, no, you got to buy the cup. And that's how they track fountain drink. Like they didn't just have like a free cup, which is stupid, but also like no sense. I basically had to buy a coffee cup to give her like a little bit of milk out of it.
Well, there was a thing for a while where you could bring I think they do it once a year. You can bring, this sounds like a goof, but you can bring your own container in to 7-Eleven and fill it up with Slurpee.
Well,
do you know about
they
this?
do on 7-Eleven on July 11th. They do free Slurpee Day,
Right.
and they have their free little cup there. They have like the little cup. It's a very small one. They don't want you to have that much of a free Slurpee, but I guess you can bring your own. I like that they adopt that thing that, you know, locally owned coffee shops have, where it's like, yeah, bring your own travel mug, but it's 7-Eleven, so you're like, yeah, bring your plastic football helmet and fill that up with Slurpee. You fucking idiot! What are you late for work?
It's weird there's no 8-Eleven.
Isn't that just an armed robbery? No, that's a 2-Eleven.
Wait, hold on. So I want to tell one of my favorite 7-Eleven stories happened this year. 7-Eleven notoriously gets robbed and pickpocketed all the time, to the point where they had to put when you notice this when you're walking in and out of a 7-Eleven, there's the thing that tells you how tall you are. And like my naive child brain, when I first saw that, was just like, oh, cool, like you can. That's a fun little, like,
You can measure your height at there.
Yeah,
you can do everything.
You know, like
you get a phone
this,
card, you get a Slurpee, you can measure your height.
maybe like, you know, like when kids are in a house for a long time, and or like when they're in a house for long, that's called like trapped. when they live in a house for a long time, and some people do that thing where they're like, we're gonna draw, you know, write your height, and then we're gonna see how tall you grow and stuff like that. I thought 7-Eleven did that. Like,
you thought that people would go in there with their kids to measure their 6.5 foot tall children.
I thought 7 and 11 were the ages of the children that lived in every store.
If you're 7'11", you get a free Slurpee. That's what that's there for.
Oh, really?
No.
Okay.
Fucking no. What if you are 7'11" and you walk into a 7-Eleven, you can have anything you want because you're a fucking ogre. You're a monster.
So anyway, they put that thing in there because people steal from them constantly. But what people don't really steal from is outside of 7-Eleven, because why would you? All the good stuff is inside. But my wife was in the car like a couple months ago and was stopped at a traffic light outside of a 7-Eleven and saw 3 guys jump out of a truck with the car running. At the light, like the second the light turned red, they jumped out of the truck, they ran out with power tools, and they removed the 7-Eleven sign, the huge one. That's like, it's like the size of the basketball rim, right? And like a foot thick. And so the 7-Eleven near us just didn't have a sign for like 6 months. Like these guys hopped out, just like a fucking Ocean's 11 shit. Like this was a calculated, but also they were laughing the whole time. But this is very clearly like, they knew exactly what they're doing. Like this was a planned hit.
That's amazing.
And they're like, all right, 3, 2, 1, lights red. That gives us like exactly 90 seconds to hop out, run over here, take out the sign, remove it, pull it out, and then run back to the car, put it in the car, and drive away. And so for the longest time, like this is a 7-Eleven that like it's not really walkable up to it. So you have to kind of see the sign from the highway. There's some like trees kind of hiding it. So I feel like there was a while there where they were just like, we might have to close. Like we're not getting.
They're supposed to replace those signs in 7 to 11 business days, but clearly they're dragging out.
They didn't.
Yeah.
I think it was 7 to 11 months this time.
I went through a phase in high school. No, not high school. I was in college. I was like in, you know, beginning of college, junior college, living with my mom still at home, like a real cool guy. And my best friend Sam and I were basically just living our most like Bill and Ted life, where we just drove around all the time and listened to like Iron Maiden, had long hair, and we're just like fucking like goofy ass metalheads. And we just would go to the 7-Eleven like 3 or 4 times a day. Basically, we just go in there.
That's extremely Beavis and Butt-Head.
Yeah, and there was this. We made friends with all the guys who worked there. There was this like large man with a little mustache whose name was I think his name was Tim, and he was an ex-pastor. And we're like, wow, so why are you working at 7-Eleven? He's like, long story. And I was like, Jesus. There's another 7-Eleven. This is the one we went to with Scott on his wedding day. There's 2 7-Elevens in Sonoma. There's one that's off the square, which is the one that we would frequent because sometimes girls from school would go there and we could talk to them.
Right.
That always ended well, I'm sure. The other one that's over on Railroad Avenue, there's a dude who works the night shift there named Butt Rock Randy, who you'd go there at like 2 a.m. and he would tell you racist jokes.
Oh,
Yeah. And he had like one tooth. And apparently, yeah, he was definitely... I think he would get off work at 7 a.m. and he would go be in his butt rock band and probably do drugs, if I had to guess. But
I feel like the less teeth, the more racist the jokes become. I'm gonna make that. I'm gonna do that.
I think racist jokes give you cavities.
I think so too.
Yeah.
I think also working at 7-Eleven gives you cavities.
Probably.
So he was really firing on all cylinders.
When I worked at Chevron, yeah, I had free Mountain Dew whenever I wanted. They were like, help yourself to the fountain drinks and the coffee and all that. But they were like, do not touch the amulet in the back of the walk-in fridge. It will burn your hands. Do not touch
It'll
it.
unlock the wizard. No, I went to them a lot growing up, and because there was nothing to do. Like there's that concept of third places, right? For high schoolers especially, or kids in general. Like it's just like you have home, you have school, and then where's the third place you go? Like we would go to the mall, but like at a certain, I think the mall closed at like 9 or 9:30. And 7-Eleven was open, I think 24/7, or at least until midnight in our town growing up, or in the town over. And so we would just go there, and you would go hang out. And the thing is, 7-Eleven, this is really dating myself, used to have payphones in front of it. And payphones are a phone that you don't carry with you. It's a phone that stays in one place.
You can carry it with you. You just have to steal it, and you probably need 4 or 5 friends in a truck and power tools. But
and if we wanted to buy like weed from our friend in high school, we would use the payphone at 7-Eleven. Which they loved. they love that. Gotta say they love that. And soda, you know who else loves that? Is people that need the phone for emergencies. They love that too. It just works for everyone, really.
yeah, I'm sure they actually did love that. They probably loved it when you guys would get stoned and then come in and buy nachos or whatever.
Yeah, of course. I mean that and you know, you just go in there and goofing off, and you and me go to 7-Eleven a lot as adults. Because we travel together a lot, but specifically we go to the ones in San Diego every year, and we go to San Diego Comic-Con. We work that show, and we work that show in an area called the Gaslamp District, and that is a really interesting part of San Diego that I don't know much about outside of Comic-Con. I do know that during Comic-Con they do like what most people at Comic-Con do, is they cosplay. Sometimes poorly. So there's a lot of restaurants and bars there that are just like, come on in to, you know, Thule Houlihan's and get our Captain America burger. And you're like, what does that even mean? And they're like, nothing. Just shut the fuck up. Just my boss told me to do this. Just come in. We're just trying to get nerds to eat a burger.
The waitress has a Stranger Things shirt on. What do you want?
Yeah. We're nerds. We're just like you guys. Come on in. Just eat the fucking burger. Captain America. Civil War. They'll... the further you get out from all that, the kind of like the less of the fuck they give about being close to that. And there's a 7-Eleven on what I would describe as like the outer rim of that area.
The Jundland Wastes.
Yeah, the
wretched
Jundland
hive of
Wastelands.
scum and villainy.
Yeah, and that place is always like it's one of the sketchier 7-Elevens I'd say we go to. In that I never feel like totally, I never really feel totally relaxed in any 7-Eleven. But this one specifically, when you go there at 10 o'clock at night, like you get like some straight up like cyberpunk looking, like, you know, kind of cyborg warrior guys will show up with like a, you know, like a chip implanted in their brain, and they have like one metal foot.
That's a bizarre intersection, like a literal intersection, because you've got the edge of the gas lamp, and then you've got where the San Diego court is, and there's all these bail bonds places, and there's also there's just dudes who I don't know if they got off or whatever, or they got not jail, whatever. They just like let them out.
Yeah.
I don't know how the court works or whatever, but
No, they look like if
you get the Mike Judge ceremonial courtroom. Just
What's Forrest Whitaker's character in Rogue One? Like if he was just all about
you get some Saw Gerreras up in there. Sometimes, but it's funny because you have the sort of the primary colors of this color wheel that create such a beautiful rainbow is you've got like drunk bros and bachelorette party people who are there for the gas lamp for regular gas lamp purposes. You have people who are there for Comic-Con who have these giant bags with like pictures of like My Little Pony on them and this big ass poster tube sticking out, and maybe they're dressed like fucking, I don't know, Jinx from League of Legends or something. And then you have dudes who just got told they don't have to go to prison, and they're just like, I'm in 7-Eleven, time to get some 5-hour energies, taquitos, you know, like, and it's just,
and they'll buy like alcohol and taquitos and like something to keep them up all night. And then occasionally you'll get like a scatterbrained new father whose kid just shit in the car or something, and they just come in there and
baby
they have
needs
like
milk and I don't have cups. Do you have cups? You gotta go buy the cups separately.
Do you have diapers or a bag?
Yeah. No, those ones are weird. The reason that they don't do Comic-Con bullshit is probably because of some kind of franchise like style guidelines which is interesting. Like 7-Eleven has fairly stringent. You can sort of tell when like one is a really corporate versus when one is like sort of loosey goosey. You know, like it's like do the owners kind of, I don't know. That's what I like about convenience stores is some chains are like clearly like a 7-Eleven it borders on McDonald's level of this is the same place. You go into it, it's got generally the same stuff. Like maybe the little tchotchkes on the counter are sort of different, but for the most part, it's kind of the same thing. The taquitos are the same. The fountain drinks are probably the same. Slurpee flavors might be different. Which of the Slurpee flavors are broken? Almost always different. There's always one of them that's just liquid instead of Slurpee. But some are in like better, some are in better shape than others. 7-Eleven in America, or at least in California, rarely sells hard liquor. But there's like one or two that I've been to that do, which is always kind of surprising. And you're like, what loophole did you go through for this? Like, how did this happen?
Yeah, like did you answered the riddles 3 at the corporate head? Like how did that happen?
Yeah.
The sort of combo breaker to that, and both of us have enjoyed this, but in Japan, 7-Elevens are completely like they are recognizable as 7-Elevens from the outside, and you walk in and you're like, all right, I know.
This is what I wanted to talk is Japanese convenience stores are the fucking best thing in the entire universe.
They're so much fun. Like so in
it's
Japanese
7-Eleven,
stores,
Circle K, and like Family Mart is the
Family Mart.
Yeah, and Papo. Gotta go to Papo, which is
and
not
they
real.
they have like a whole, I mean, obviously like they're catering to Japanese sort of fast food, fast casual food, which is, it's more like, onigiri and chicken karaage and stuff like that. And like, they're in like the funny little boxes and they're underneath the heat lamps and stuff like they would be. But they have tables in there because like they want you to, or at least some of them do, have tables where you can sit down and like have a date. Like I remember specifically going to one in Shibuya where I was like, oh, this is a couple on a date. Like in America, this would be the either like a prank or like the first and last Tinder date for a couple, right? They also sell dress shirts, which I thought was amazing.
They sell some amazing shit there. They
like
sell,
if you were to buy clothes in like what kind of clothes do they sell in 7-Eleven in America, right?
Gloves,
like,
rope.
Yeah, gloves and rope, and then they have like the fisherman's hat, so you could do a murder.
Yeah, you get like
local,
maybe racist hats. Come to this town. Like they got the touristy trappy shit. No, the logic there. It's surprising that they have chairs in there because you'd think that the logic behind a convenience store is that every square inch of real estate matters. So you want to jam it with as much shit you can buy as possible and get customers in and out as quick as possible. But if they have a seating area, who knows how that works? The dress shirts is for salarymen who are out all night partying.
Yeah, which I love that so much because like I remember seeing guys pass out on the street. To be clear, I love that 7-Eleven sells dress shirts. I do not love that people can't go home and take a shower because they were up working and drinking so much. Like, there is a funniness to that, but like eventually it's like, oh, that's dangerous and horrible.
It's a very weird solution to a problem that could be solved other ways.
Yeah. I mean, so I don't
if
think
there's
it's
the path of least resistance, this is a motocross dirt bike jump.
Yes, 7-Eleven is like, hey guys, we're the 24/7 company, and look at us. Do you want to be like this? And a lot of Japanese companies are like, yes. And they're like, all right, well, so if that's going to happen, then we're going to sell dress shirts, like button up white, clean, crisp, ironed dress shirts. So if you were out all night drinking and you fell asleep on a stoop somewhere, you can put on a dress shirt and go right to work the next day. Courtesy of 7-Eleven, which is pretty amazing. Like you could go in there, you could get deodorant and a dress shirt and like a breakfast and a coffee and freshen up and hit the ground running. Go right back to, making a video game that's not going to sell as much, and then the audience is like, should have been longer.
I mean, in America, I think you can probably get like T-shirts. You can get clothes of some variety, probably underwear. You get those pantyhose that come in eggs, eggs.
Do they still make those?
I don't know. I have no idea. I don't really shop for pantyhose a whole lot, but
I don't
only
either,
when I'm doing robberies. What I love about 7-Eleven in Japan, aside from everything, is obviously like the standard of food is higher, but they also have fucking Gundams. They have they sell 7-Eleven exclusive Gundam models.
It's great. Like they sell toys, they sell video games and stuff like that. I remember going there and I forget, some big video game had just come out in Japan and wasn't out in America yet, and they just had it on the shelf, and I was like, man, that rules. Like that's so cool. And I think they switched over to like the digital cards and stuff like that, eShop cards and all that. But yeah, it's like you get different things than you would here.
I mean,
Or
to
cooler
reiterate,
things.
they have like custom made 7-Eleven branded Gundams. Like you can get a Gundam kit where instead of being, red, white, blue, and yellow, it's orange and green and red.
Yeah.
And the dude's holding like a little 7. It's one of my favorite things in the universe. I, for some reason, don't have any of these 7-Eleven. I remember going
You
to
need them.
I went to 7-Eleven in Japan a couple of times and like looked for Gundam specifically, and would go and get like whiskey and hentai instead. It was just gotta go. We're forgetting one very important convenience store scene in pop culture, which is in Dumb and Dumber. Again, two dumb white dudes going to a store. They only have enough money for the bare necessities, and the next shot is just Jim Carrey, and he's got like 30 racks of beer and like a paddle ball and like a giant foam cowboy hat and like a bag of porno magazines, and it's like just the bare essentials. And like that is the most authentic depiction of going to a convenience store.
Where you walk in. I mean, like Target tries to capture that energy now of like, hey, you didn't know what you wanted until you got here. But like convenience stores, the fact that they're like 9 feet deep and you can walk in and walk out that with all that kind of shit that you absolutely did not plan to buy.
The kill death ratio on your wallet is much higher on the 7-Eleven side. There's also the 4th of July Simpsons episode where Homer goes in there and he's trying to buy illegal fireworks, and he's like, yeah, let me get a pint of whiskey, box of condoms, a couple of disposable enemas, and illegal fireworks. And he just goes home, and Marge's just like, what did you have planned for tonight?
Well, like the whole like food culture in 7-Elevens and convenience stores in general is fascinating to me. Like we talked about the chili and the cheese, which are obviously for hot dogs, but at some point in our lives, 7-Eleven decided like we have these rollers going all day long and we have hot dogs all over them. But what's other food that we could put on there that's a tube?
Oh my God.
They had this conversation at corporate and they figured out all these different things.
Dick-shaped hamburgers.
That's what they fucking made.
Yeah, what are they? They're burger dogs? I think.
Yeah, burger dogs. It's just like a fucking
tube meat.
It's a beef cock. Like, it's just like, it's so stupid.
Yeah.
And
taquitos,
you look at that
I
and
like
you're like,
the taquitos. I love
taquitos are fun. Yeah, those are for those that don't know, it's sort of just like I think it's like a tortilla. It's like a thin tortilla that's filled with like shredded chicken or some sort of shredded meat, and then rolled up super tight like a cigar, and then it just sits there on these rollers all day underneath the heat lamps. They had to figure out all these different like funny sort of like like tube coned things that they could just put on there to just flop around all day.
I love it.
It's great.
No, the thing that always was odd to me is they have the quarter-pound big bite hot dog, and then they also have
then microwaves.
They do have microwaves. They have all other. That's where you get the big bite Texas cinnamon roll or whatever.
There's a whole
thing.
with
the microwave stuff. I don't.
No, me neither. You know why? Because I'm not.
I want
having
things
the
that
worst
roll.
day of my life.
I want the things that roll. I'm in a hurry. I'm a businessman.
But there was a while there where convenience stores didn't go this completely buck wild with like with the rollers, and you would go in and they would have a microwave in the corner, and you would get. I remember like we were on a road trip once, and with my brothers and my parents and stuff like that, and like it was just like one of those, we didn't have phones yet, and there were those signs on the highway that was just like, hey, there's a Roy Rogers like 65 miles from here, and you're like, oh, fuck. So you go to a convenience store and you're like, all right, they have these like those microwavable, like the little Chef Boyardee things, little Cheffies that were just like, it was like a little red cup like that.
Yes.
And you take it off and there'd be like a cat food, the peel back thing.
And I remember like how to just mainline microplastics basically.
Yeah, totally. And I remember like taking one of those and microwaving it for 90 seconds and then like eating it in the car and just being like, oh, people do this regularly. Like, man, why? And it's so odd because I was like remarking to somebody the other day, like I passed by a convenience store where like they had a big sign that was just like, hey, we have a great deal, like you can get our cheeseburger and our Coke for $5, but like they were like, I shit you not, like 20 feet from a Chick-fil-A, a McDonald's, and a Taco Bell, and I was like, man, that's really like that's an uphill battle. At that point, like you're going head to head with some true titans of the industry.
Well, I guess that's one way to look at a 7-Eleven or a convenience store is that it's fast food, but it's a fast food grocery store.
Yeah, yeah.
That's exactly. I mean, that's what it is, and it's interesting that they are kind of edging into that territory.
But also, you can't get like gummy bears and fucking peanut M and M's at
No, you can't
McDonald's.
get condoms. You can't get.
You can't
rope.
get condoms at McDonald's. Not since the Grimace incident. That's how he lost 2 of his hands, by the way.
Terrible.
It was that and diabetes, but he lost 1 of his hands from condoms.
Okay, so if I don't know where to go from that, if I gave you, I don't know, $25 and sent you to a convenience store, what do you buy?
Did they have alcohol?
Okay, 2-part question. It is 1 PM on a weekday. What do you buy? And then it is.
Do I have to work?
I don't. Okay, let's
Do I have
just,
the day
let's
off?
say there's. Okay, slow down. Let's say there's the PG version and there's the M-rated version.
Okay.
The MPAA and the ASRB are both involved in this whole game show. But I'm just saying, you have what's your go-to thing to buy at a 7-Eleven when you're getting in trouble and just for like an ordinary go-to time?
I mean, I love like gummy snacks. You know, we did a whole episode of the show on that. I love gummy snacks. So those are always great. They always have like a really good variety in there, and they have like like the funny sour punch straws and all that shit. I usually get I'll get like a drink that's like, I'm so lame because I'm old now and I'm always trying to like be like, oh, how much sugar is in this thing? But in my glory days, I would go in and get like some awesome, not like a soda, but like some bottled drink that had a ton of sugar.
Actually, I just realized I have never known you in your soda days. Like, I've never known what your go-to.
I never had soda days.
But what was your?
Yeah.
Were you like a Sobe man? Were you like an Arizona dude? Like, what did you?
When
you were hanging out with other youths, what sort of beverage would you consume that was not of an alcoholic variety?
Brisk iced tea was the big one.
No shit, really?
Yeah, brisk iced tea
What
was
the fuck?
great.
I feel like I don't even know you.
I
What
know.
the
So
fuck?
we didn't,
Brisk, really?
dude. We didn't really we didn't drink soda in our house growing up, and it's not that
Brisk.
like we weren't like against it, but I think like all of us were like we would have it at birthday parties and be like, wow, that's a weird thing to keep in your house all the time.
It
Like,
is, yeah.
You know, it's in the same way like I didn't have birthday cake in the fridge all the time, right? Like we had tons of snacks. Like my dad was a big guy, but we just didn't have soda. It was funny because my parents would go to like BJ's, which was like Costco on the East Coast.
Yeah, but with
and they
more
would get
dicks.
like. Yeah, there's a guy in the front. He's like, go, just to make sure you have the card. And they would get like a pallet, like those pallet carts of like snacks for kids because there were 3 boys, right? And we would come home from school fucking ravenous and hungry, and we would tear through like the huge like convenience store size boxes of like candy bars and Reese's peanut butter cups and the marshmallow squares and all that shit,
but not soda.
but not soda.
This I'm sorry, but Brisk, I'm just fascinated by this. This feels like seeing a picture of someone in high school. I've seen pictures of you in high school. I know what that. I just cannot, like, the idea of you going to a 7-Eleven and buying a bottle of Brisk is just totally. I don't know what I would have guessed you would have picked out.
When I never really I didn't really get into caffeine until like my early 20s.
So you just get like a sweet drink. You just get like a juice.
Well, I didn't really fuck with a lot of like the Mountain Dew energy drink stuff that like once the energy, I think for when like Red Bulls came out, obviously everybody in the world got into them, right? Or and anybody young. There were no 80-year-old people being like, this will be my last drink, and their heart just explodes. But yeah, I would get Red Bulls and stuff like that early on when those came around. But yeah, I never got like fucking Pepsis and Cokes and like Sprites and shit like that, unless we were like mixing them with whatever alcohol we could scrounge.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really fuck with Mountain Dew anymore. I have a little Mountain Dew tattoo because I love Mountain Dew so much. My 7-Eleven days, I would go in there and I would get like a double gulp, which is half a gallon. I would get half a gallon of Mountain Dew, and I would just fuck around with my friend Sam. We just go listen to Judas Priest in the car, drink this whole thing, bounce out the fucking wall. Somehow I lost weight that summer. I don't know how. I think it's because I had like probably the metabolism of like a Yellow Jacket, where I was just like, soda, gonna fucking fly around all day. Ah!
So I will say I do like, or I haven't gotten one in a while, but I did like getting like once a year I would get like the Coca-Cola Slurpee because I was like, okay, this is transformative enough.
Oh my god, I never went for the Coca-Cola. I can't do that. I don't give a shit about the Coca-Cola. Like,
the Slurpee I never ever got was the white one. Not because of racism, but because I was like, what is this?
What is the white? Was that like White Mystery? That's Airheads.
I think it
Was it Pina
or
Colada?
or Pina Colada, which I hate.
I don't like pina colada. I like pina coladas when they're pina coladas. I don't really want them in anything else.
No, I have to be like in a pool in Mexico, and someone's like, "Would you like a pina colada?" And I'm
Yeah.
like, "Yeah," and whatever the rest of the song is. But yeah, so like every now and then I'll get a Slurpee and be like, "All right, that felt nice."
I took my daughter to 7-Eleven like she had her first Oreo. We had we had like a wonderful ass little like daddy daughter day. We went to the fucking comic shop, got her like a Pokemon model kit. It was just the best. It was the coolest fucking day. Went to 7-Eleven, got her first Oreo. I got her like a lemonade, nothing like, I'm not giving her like Red Bull or whatever, like nothing gross. And I was going to get a Slurpee, and all the Slurpee machines were just, they weren't icy, like you can tell when it's just liquid in there.
Yeah.
And it's just going to come out. It's just gonna be weird soda. They had Mountain Dew Pitch Black, which is a discontinued flavor that I haven't had
and
it's like in the same way that Mountain Dew is supposed to be citrus, but it doesn't taste like anything. It tastes like completely made up, like, like the Albrecht Dürer drawing of a rhinoceros, where somebody told him what a rhinoceros looked like, and he's like, I guess I'll do my best there, and it has like armor plates and like webbed feet, and you're like, what are you fucking doing? That is the Mountain Dew equivalent of citrus, where it's like somebody described lemons and limes to some dude at PepsiCo.
Interesting.
And he was like, yeah, it's gonna be neon green. That's yellow and green together, right? Sure, why not? Mountain Dew. Let's name it after slang for moonshine. Why the fuck not? Pitch Black was their version of grape. And it's the only time a flavor has gotten a sequel, as far as I know, because they did Pitch Black 2.
Does it taste like cough medicine?
It tastes like if you described cough medicine to somebody who was on cough medicine. It doesn't taste like anything conceivable. Like, they put out the regular version, and I think it tasted too much like cough medicine, and it didn't latch on, and they put out a sequel. They put out Pitch Black 2, Roman numeral 2, a few
Starring
years
Vin
later.
Diesel.
Yeah, really, pretty. It was a real chronicle of Riddick, that soda. But yeah, and they made it like slightly more sour. I love Mountain Dew for how fucking insane they get with the flavors, where they're just like, they just make up words. They're like Code Red. And it sounds like a fucking things are
Amber
gone.
Alert.
Yeah, right.
They don't they do hard Mountain Dews now?
They do. I still haven't had those. I don't know. Like, they make Warheads flavored Four Loko, and I guess this is a sign of maturity, because I saw that at my local. Was that it was at my loco 7-Eleven. And I didn't buy it. I bought something. I bought like a IPA or something. Right. I don't know. So your go-to is like some gummies and a brisk, maybe.
Warheads flavored Four Loko. Okay.
Yeah, what could go wrong?
That they make jail flavored people now.
Yeah, pretty much.
That and hot dogs, man. I loved going in there and just getting a hot dog, getting the spicy one, putting everything on it, like the fucking jalapenos, the cheese, the chili, and all that. Because like the thing is, when I make a hot dog at home, which I do frequently, we should probably do an episode on hot dogs eventually.
We will.
I don't have a chili cheese gun, and I've never taken chili in my own home and put it on a hot dog. Because it's like I feel like if maybe in the wintertime I'll make a chili like once or twice. But I don't like. I never have hot dogs at the same time.
I don't know why. I will do a 7-Eleven chili dog. Sometimes it's too messy. Like, you get to the end and it's just wet, and I don't go for that. I definitely have had my share of them, but for me, I have to kind of pick a lane where like I'll do everything in that weird salad bar box. Like, I'll do the onions and the relish and all that crap, and the ketchup and the mustard, the mayonnaise. It looks like just like a cartoon hot dog afterwards. But that's all like conventional old school hot dog trappings.
Right.
And if I do the chili dog, I do something separate. Like, maybe I'll put onions on there, but I got to keep it. It's like two different identities. Like, what kind of hot dog I want. I don't know. My 7-Eleven go-to in the olden days was like either a giant ass double gulp of Mountain Dew, or I would get the big Slurpee, which I think is like 40 ounces. So I'd get a big Slurpee, probably of Mountain Dew flavor. But if they had good flavors,
crazy.
I would do the whole stack. The thing about like there's this, what is it called, like a suicide or whatever? Mm-hmm. That's with the
Neapolitan or whatever.
Well, there's like the fountain drink where you mix it all together. You just make a crazy mixture. But with Slurpees, you can do it like those
like Sandart.
Yeah, like the Sandart they sell at the New Year or whatever. Yeah, and you just make this stacked rainbow thing, and it's great because you get into different levels. You're like, oh, just hit the Coca-Cola phase. Whoa. And it's just a different drink because it floats.
They had one of those at a pumpkin patch we went to, and my kid was like 2 or 3 at the time, and she was like, I want Sandart. And we're like, okay. And there's like this old hillbilly man. He's like 100, and he's like, so what you do is you just take the funnels and you put the funnels over the bottle and you pick up the scoops and you put in different colors. You can pick any color you want. And we're like, all right. And she walked out with this like huge glass. It's like a hot sauce bottle, like a large one of like 60 different layers of sand. And it looks like garbage. Like no one wants to look at it. Gets in the parking lot and just drops it. It's just so I just think about this like fucking janitor coming out, or the wind does it, and just it's just like, God fucking damn it, this fucking hillbilly keeps showing up. The sand art bottles, kids are dropping them all over the place because it's such a funny thing to break. Because it's like breaking a regular bottle is dangerous enough, right? But if you break a bottle that has like 60 different colors of rainbow sand and it just explodes, and it's like, this will flatten your tires, and also it just looks like someone threw up Skittles.
You know how if you got pulled over by a cop and he's like, all right, sir, step out of the vehicle, and if you open the door and like a bunch of beer cans fell out, he'd be like, all right, get in the back. You put them up, whatever. I feel like if you open your door and a bunch of sand art fell out and broke everywhere, he'd be like, oh, I'm sorry, man. You can head home. You just get out. Like, it would just be so confusing and sad that he would just let you leave. It wouldn't.
That's when you know a unicorn has a DUI.
Yeah,
like that's how you catch them.
Yeah,
it's so dumb. It's so dumb. But yeah, I would do that too with the Slurpees. You just stack up different layers
like a geode.
I never got the 40-ounce one because my logic was like, this is gonna either brain freeze the fuck out of me, or it's just gonna turn into like a liquid goop.
Yeah, you got to walk that razor blade.
You don't have to.
Yeah, no, it's a good time. I love it. I miss that. Nowadays, if I go into a 7-Eleven, I typically get. I become like a real proponent of the Chex Bold Party Mix. I like to get a good.
I love the Chex. You know
mix.
what? They put out a Chex the Chex game a couple years ago. They remastered
Quest.
the Chex Quest, the one that came with like the cereal or the snack or whatever back in the day. And
they sent us so much of that stuff, and we ate all of it.
Yeah, they sponsored Up at Noon. And like when that happens, we don't get like extra money. The company gets money. But they were like, can we send you some Chex Mix? And it was like middle of the pandemic. Any piece of mail you got felt like, you know, like a carrier pigeon would show up in the war. You're like, oh my God. Like anytime a package came out, I was like, amazing. But yeah, they sent us a bunch of Chex Mix, and I fucking loved it.
I ate so much Chex Mix, and I don't have a problem eating more. I love the.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I get that, and now I don't know. I'll get those.
I like the cheddar ones with the orange footballs. You know, the paper footballs.
Oh yeah, those are great. Yeah, the cheese ones. The bold is good. The traditional, I'm not wild about. I don't fuck with those Muddy Buddies though. I don't like the one they put in the frosting.
I don't like the chocolate stuff.
That's all right.
Once you go with the bold with it, it's you can't go back.
It's a good flavor. I don't know what that's even. It's supposed to be like steak sauce that you threw in the Chex Mix. I don't understand it. It doesn't make any sense. But yeah, then I'll get. I drink a lot of these like stupid ass cartoon flavored energy drinks.
Yeah, you're in good
now.
shape for somebody that drinks a lot of those.
I hope that whatever I'm consuming is like eating the microplastics, and I'm just creating like a nice equilibrium. But yeah, no, I have the Skittles flavored C4 performance energy drink, and if you drink it fast enough, your whole body gets prickles all over. It's probably a good sign.
Prickles from Gumby?
Yeah. Oh, I wanted to talk about this. Did you have Cumberland Farms when you were growing up?
No.
Okay, so this is, I think, a Connecticut North thing. I think it's like a Massachusetts.
I would remember that, yeah.
So there's a chain of convenience stores called Cumberland Farms, and the thing I like about them is that whereas 7-Eleven is like a fairly rigid, like the franchises have to stay within the color within the lines, Cumberland Farms is like monster of the week. You have no idea what you're getting when you go in there. Some of them are totally straightforward, and some of them are like you put up the sign on like a haunted tavern. Like you put up it's just a completely, you have no idea. Like they always would sell those like insane like lighters that have LEDs all over them, and they like make whistles and shit. They always have like some.
Are you saying like architecturally their buildings didn't have a style guide?
No,
like
they were they were gas stations. They were like whatever little
got it,
or whatever. I'm saying like whoever was putting stuff out, like in terms of product, there was some basic stuff you could expect, but like there was always like a pretty wide margin of sort of bonus chaos. Where if you wanted to go in there and get like a pack of cigarettes and like a Coke or whatever, they would have that. But if you wanted to get like a butane crack torch that would light up neon rainbow colors and make like bleepy jingle sounds, they might have that too. If you wanted what like those like shitty wind up car toys,
yes,
where it would be like a bright yellow F-16 jet that just says like U.S. Air Force in Comic Sans on the wing, and you're just like, that's probably not accurate. They would just have like weird, shitty tchotchkes and stuff for sale, and they'd have that. But the thing I love about Cumberland Farms,
like the Hess trucks,
like the worst bootleg ones. And they would have like, oh, it's like a whole case of new Volkswagen Beetles. And then
Okay.
there'd be like one cop car in there for some reason, and you didn't make sense of it. You wanted to buy the worst sunglasses ever, you could go there.
Do you know about those? I mean, you've seen them before. They're like gas station quick marts that you can't go into.
Oh, where you have to ask through the bulletproof glass or whatever.
I don't like those, but
They
there was
don't
one.
count. They're not convenient.
There was one on Route 17 in Paramus, New Jersey, by where I grew up, that had, and like to explain this to people who don't know what these things are, at the gas station they would usually have either nothing at all or like a little market you could go into, convenience store. But sometimes they would have this thing that was just like this glass box entirely. It almost looked like a toll booth.
You have to go there and you could ask for things.
Yeah, you would have to ask for things, and they had a limited selection of stuff. They'd have like cigarettes, like 3 drinks, and then lighters and like car air fresheners. There was like random things that you might need for your car.
That is one of my this shit is one of my
Yeah.
biggest pet peeves is when we're on the road or whatever. My wife doesn't care about convenience stores. She doesn't like to get out of the car to pump her gas. She doesn't give a shit. She does not enjoy the pleasures of the snack store. I'll get her bold party mix. She appreciates that.
I don't like to get out of the car and pump the gas after.
I like to get out to do that
ages in New
because then I
Jersey.
get to go into the store and see what they got in there. What I hate
That's a different
is when it's not like a full-on convenience store. It's just like they took a corner of the garage and
Yeah.
they sell air fresheners and like tire pressure meters and like one magazine. And they always have like one. Yeah, it's like one kind of drink.
I
Like
hate
one or-
that too. But this one place in New Jersey, and I think maybe the dude was just doing a goof, or he was selling enough of them that it made sense to do it. He had like 3 snacks. There was like Lay's, Cheetos, Doritos.
Yeah.
Great, cool. The food groups. There were like 3 drinks. It was like Powerade, water, Coca-Cola, and then there was like 16 or 17 fart machines. Just, like in the blister packs and everything, and it said like makes 25 authentic shithouse fart noises. And he had a ton of them, and I don't know if they were just like, he was like, fuck you, this is my store, or my storelet, or whatever you want to call it, a little conveni. He was like, I'll do whatever I want with this thing. Or if people were just like, hey honey, guess what I got? And she was like, God damn it, Greg, stop fucking buying the fart machines. Like, I think that people were just getting them as gag gifts, and it's New Jersey, so it's stupid from top to bottom. I know we've been going long, but we briefly talked about bodegas. I've never grouped bodegas and convenience stores together. Those are completely separate things for me.
No,
because-
that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah,
It's also, I mean, liquor stores, convenience stores, they all have slightly different vibes and identities.
Yes, yeah,
And like in the same way that a kiosk in Germany is like a totally, it's not.
a kiosk in Germany has more in connection with a bodega to me than a 7-Eleven does. Although
There's no corporate meddling. There's like there's a
although they all sell
universal
the
common
same
ground, but yeah,
they all sell the same things. I think that like what separates it for me is that most or a lot of the good bodegas have at the very least like a full-on deli counter, right? Where you can go in there, you can get like a bacon, egg, and cheese, like with the griddle and everything, right? Like they're, but a lot of the bodegas in New York City now, which I guess double as delis, I just call them all bodegas, have like a full-on like buffet lunch section. I don't know if you've seen these. They've been doing this for decades, but I think that like people who don't live there or haven't lived there don't realize how weird that is. Stella Chung, who works at IGN, was on a work trip in New York and was just texting me from like a bodega, and she was like, holy shit, dude, like I just walked into a bodega and they just have like 60 like hot food item trays like a Whole Foods does, and like you can go in there with a box and just like it's stuff underneath heat lamps all day, and it's like General Tso's chicken and fried rice and like plantain chips and fucking like beef stew, just all this stuff that you can get. And I was like, oh yeah, that's right. None of the like delis or anything you would even call a bodega or corner store, convenience store in San Francisco or in California in general have anything like that.
No,
So-
no. The Superette and the Tenderloin, which was my go-to liquor store, corner store when I was in art school. 128 Eddy Street. They have a really, really high-res photo of deviled eggs on their website. They have fried chicken. You can smell that place for like 3 blocks around. Well, I think it's about lunchtime, my good man.
It is. I want to say for legal purposes, I don't think you legally can dump any of the chili cheese or cheese.
Do we need like we probably need like a blanket. We did not research this that well. Do not take our word for it. Don't go to 7-Eleven and pour all of the cheese in a bag. They don't like that probably. Don't open the little box that they keep the cheese and the meat inside. They probably don't like that.
Don't smash the ice on the ground at Wawa.
Bang the
Like
ice.
you're chipping the floor. Man.
Don't go to the egg section. Take out each egg and look at it individually. They don't want that either.
No, they don't like. They don't do any of that.
Don't try to upsell people on Chuli's gum.
Don't ever do anything anywhere. Don't go anywhere.
Don't do
again.
it. It's not convenient.
Stop going everywhere.
Quit going. Don't do it.
Don't do it.
Don't
stop it.
Quit it. Anyway,
stop what you're doing right now and don't ever do it again.
What you can do is go to patreon.com/thisthingrules and kick us $1 or $2 or tell us to knock it off. Don't do it anymore. Stop doing that.
Yeah.
But
if you
sign up.
If you go there and you sign up, you can say stop it.
Yeah. Yes.
Don't
but
do
only
it anymore.
only patrons can tell us to knock it off or to quit it. Or if we do it, whatever. I don't care. It's fine.
Patrons can also tell us that they've had it up to here with this.
And if you have any great liquor store tips, leave a note in the comments below.
Yeah. You can also tell us to give it up. You can say don't quit your day jobs.
Yeah. This episode is brought to you by Superette 128, liquor, beer, wine, grocery, located at 128 Eddy Street in San Francisco, California. Swing on by, try the chicken. Probably not. It's not that great.
Home of the deviled eggs that are so big, they're high res.
They're big. They're big eggs. Get the big eggs.
Huge. You can't take pictures of them with your old phone. You better get a good...
size it. Superette-sized eggs.
Hire a wedding photographer to take a picture of those eggs because they are gorgeous.
Wettest eggs in the tri-state area. What tri-state area? Try and find out. You'll see.
3 of them.
Yep.
Any
all
3
three.
that are together.
Yeah, that's right. Utah, California, Argentina, together at last. The tri-state area.
The bi-state area. Oh, wait, hold up. One more thing. Before we go, just a very friendly reminder / desperate plea for all of our listeners to support the show however you can.
Each and every single like, share, subscribe, rating, review, follow, favorite, bookmark, upvote, and comment we receive helps us grow our audience.
Even a good up dog helps us out.
Every single little tidbit of organic interaction we get helps convince those cold, unfeeling algorithms that this show is actually worth anyone's time.
Good old-fashioned word of mouth works too, so if you think this show rules, tell people about it. Tell your friends,
lovers, strangers, enemies, whoever.
And of course, we might have mentioned kicking us $1 or $2 on Patreon is huge. Also has some really cool perks.
For instance, $1 a month gets access to bonus content. $5 gets you each week's episode on Tuesdays instead of Fridays.
And for a few dollars more, you can help decide the good, bad, and ugly topics for future episodes.
Head to patreon.com/thisthingrules to see for yourself. However you support the show, even if it's just making time to listen to us talk about our favorite stuff, you rule, and we love you for it. We'll see you next week. Or we'll hear you next week. Or you hear us.
You'll hear us.
We'll talk to you later.
Next week.